we've seen a lot of volatility in the market, and I want to get your views on what you think is driving this. Some have pointed to some investors waiting on the sidelines ahead of elections as a major factor. Others are pointing to developments in Egypt and foreign investors staying out of frontier markets like Nigeria as a result. Or do you just think that the market is just taking a breather after the very strong move we saw in January?
Well, I think probably all of those things are part of it, and that's not a cop-out. The fact is that there are a lot of factors that are involved in what's happening in the market now. As I've discussed in the past, profit-taking, because there was a good start to the year, there are some people who have said, well, let me take some profit, and that's a good thing. People are looking at the Nigerian stock exchange as a place where you can make a profit. I support that concept. It's a good thing. But there is uncertainty in the market, and in the short term particularly, and there are those who, when there's times of uncertainty, they'll either sit on the sidelines or they'll go elsewhere. Foreign investment, foreign investment in a frontier market does not like uncertainty. And so they go elsewhere and they sit and wait. But we get beyond the short term, and I think there's all sorts of reasons to be positive.
Well, obviously, we'll begin to see some of those reasons because earnings season should begin to pick up over the next few weeks. This week in particular, I mean, I expect Nestle to release full-year results. So obviously, quite a few results are expected. Let's start with the food companies in general. What are your expectations for earnings and the impact it probably would have on the valuations of these companies? Some are already saying that some are pretty stretched. Do you think this is going to be a catalyst of any sort going forward?
Well, what I believe is that the food companies are very strong, and we like food and beverage companies. And that's not just from a top-down approach of the industry, but from a bottom-up approach on each individual company. We like them. You mentioned Nestle, very strong company with very strong brands. And bearing in mind that we have 150 million people here, and they all use Nestle's brands, and others as well, Unilever and all the big multinationals who are here. They've had a good year, I believe, just sort of watching them and seeing what they've done. I believe we can expect that they'll come out with reasonably positive returns for the year 2010.
And then for the banks, obviously it's probably some months ahead of us, maybe into late March or early April. We begin to see the numbers from them. Do you think that will be a catalyst as well for this market?
Well, I think it will be, because even though there's even more uncertainty as far as the banks are concerned, and there are those who have had their fingers burned because they weren't too wise in their investment in banks in the past, are going to stand back from them. But I think we will probably see, as the central bank has very wisely dealt with the banks over the last year or so, I think we'll probably see that there will be some reasonable returns from some of the banks, from the top tier banks, because they will have reduced some of their operating expenses. And it may just be because they've pared down their staff and so on. There won't be we won't expect a lot of revenues from banking services that they've offered, because certainly within the purview of loans, they haven't been doing a lot of lending, which is a shame because they have a banking license. They're given a banking license. People and businesses in Nigeria have a reasonable expectation to have the banks with licenses support their businesses with short-term lending, with possibly helping them with their long-term borrowing and their long-term plans. The banks, I think, have a responsibility, because they have been given a license, to provide that to the economy and to the businesses that need that financing, because we import so much here in Nigeria. But they don't seem to be able to separate, or are reluctant to separate, the good loans from the bad loans. And it's like somebody going to the Department of Consumer Affairs, getting a permit to open a butcher shop, but refuses to sell meat because they can't tell a goat from a sheep.